Then when are we talking about? You'll notice fourth quarter 15, third quarter 15, second quarter 15. 2015 looks like when things get back to normal. Now this is 2012, that's still not good news, but it's a lot better than waiting for 2017. Now this chart really sums up the issue. This is for the Inland Empire as a whole, and I'll show it to you for Menifee in a moment. This is the price of new homes. Notice there's sort of a straight line going on there. That is pretty much the minimum that a new home developer needs to be able to make to build, given their costs. Now, down here you see another almost straight line. That is the price that in the existing home market. Existing homes are down 60% from the peak in the Inland Empire at the bottom. They've come up somewhat since then. They're back 16% at this point. Price has started to move positively, but notice the size of that gap. And herein lies our challenge. If developers need $291,500 to afford to build, and the mortgage suppressed price is at $180,000, that's a $110,000 difference. A developer cannot afford to put out houses at $291,000 if they're competing at houses at $180,000. That is a 38% difference in price. Until this narrows, until we get this up farther, this can't really come down. That's based on their costs. What's got to happen is we have to have that go up, which means we get out of the mix so many foreclosures. Now, one of the things that is going on is we have for our region an advantage we've always had, and that is the advantage of prices versus the coastal counties. The reason Menifee grew, the reason Paris has, and San Jacinto, and Hemet, Temecula, Murrieta, Moreno Valley, Beaumont, is there is a middle-priced San Bernardino County house, half above, half below, second quarter 2012. Here it is in LA, here it is in San Diego, here it is in Orange. There's Menifee at 183. People moving from those other places and coming to Menifee, well, it'd be $22,000 more expensive to come from San Bernardino County. But notice, you're below the county median by $25,000, but coastal county residents that are looking for a house are saving $149 if they're coming from LA, $188 from San Diego, and $327 from Orange. That chart is why this area has always grown. By this area, I mean the Inland Empire. It has not changed in 20 or 30 years, the size of those yellower boxes. That even with the recession, the size is about the same. Now, why aren't people coming? Answer, they're afraid. Fear has been a huge factor in dampening the housing market. Now, here's that same chart I looked at a minute ago for Menifee. Your price has peaked in the new home market at $451,282, half above, half below. It is currently at $251,063, so developers are looking to receive 44% less than they were at the peak. In the existing home market, it's gone from $357,410. The most recent price is $169. At the bottom, it was down 52.5%. So what we're looking at is the market has come up a little bit, but notice there's that gap I talked about. Here in the city, it's $81,453, 32.4%. It is not as great a margin as you have in some other places. What's happened to home sales? Here, these are seasonally adjusted. What I've done with these numbers is I've taken out of the figures summer, winter, spring, and fall. There's a way that economists do that sort of stuff, so each dot is comparable to every other dot. Here was the bottom in the recent 193 seasonally adjusted sales. That was in third and fourth quarter 07. You then have a huge amount of sales, largely foreclosure sales, going on through 09, going into 10. Then as the supply of sales that could be made goes down, it works its way down to 430. The record was right there in fourth quarter 09, first quarter 2010. Now here is a huge issue for the city council, the mayor, the city administrator. I apologize to you guys, but this is very important. What's it say? When a bank goes to sell a foreclosed home, they put a price on it that's what they think they can get for it, and they sell it on the courthouse steps. They put it out there, and if private sector folks want to outbid that price, they get it rather than the bank taking it back. How much of that was going on in 07? 7.6% of foreclosures were going directly to investors. In the county, it is now 24.9%. So a huge increase. Now what does this mean? Sorry, that's not in the county, that's in the city. That is the injection of rentals into the city. Now, so what? We had a study done a while ago in two cities, Moreno Valley and San Bernardino, and asked the question, what form of ownership was causing the greatest calls for police service? It was not apartments, which is what you would almost immediately think. It was detached single-family residences where you had groups of them together in the same neighborhoods, because you couldn't run a tenant management program to work with the people who own them, because the owners are scattered all over God's earth. So that is a real challenge looking forward. How are we doing in terms of permit activity in the Inland Empire? In 2011, we had the record low number. So the market has really not come back yet. It may be starting to come back in 2012. Now, one other piece of good news, when the market starts to recover and people feel like they want to buy a house, this chart is amazing. Back during the peak of the cycle, 05, 6, and 7, only 15% of Inland Empire residents could afford the bottom 50% of Inland Empire houses. So who was buying them? The answer is people from LA and Orange County. At San Diego County, we were getting 90,000 people a year migrating here because it was even worse in those counties. Now in the last cycle, that number went up to 59%. So 59% could afford the bottom 50. That was a seller's market. Well, look at the final number on that chart. Today, 70% of Inland Empire residents can afford the bottom half of houses. Why aren't they buying them? One, they're tied up in property and can't get rid of it because they're underwater. Two, if anybody's had a house appraised recently, appraisers have become incredibly conservative. It is very difficult to qualify. Third, FICO scores have gone up. Fourth is the fear factor. You add that together, and people aren't taking advantage of this yet, though I suspect they're now starting to, because that's the greatest affordability, to my knowledge, in the modern history of this region. Now, one of the reasons people aren't has a lot to do with confidence. This is normal. By the way, you'll notice all the way back to 07, we haven't gotten to normal. Now, what does normal mean? It means people look forward 6 months and they think, you know, things are going to be okay. Well, the worst we got was back here in '09. On a scale of 100, we measured things and said 27. What's that? That means anybody who was a psychologist was doing really, really well. It then went all the way up to 97. Now that's in February of 11. From February 11 through to October of 11, Congress got in its budget fight. And what did Congress do to our feelings about the future? They managed to jam it all the way back down to 50. There's a message here. The political community can affect the economy. Never in a positive way. And that kind of shows you. Now they go out of session right after that, and what happens? It goes back up. But they come back. And it goes back down. But they're out of session now, so what did it do? It's jumped up to 83.7. That's almost the political cycle you're watching about in a crazy era. You know, this is not helping us at all. Construction jobs, you can see, were hugely negative. Went positive a little bit. That had a lot to do with stimulus spending and infrastructure construction. It then goes negative, but we got a pop right here in July, which is good news. Now, let's take a strong look at your city. First of all, you are the 14th of 53 Inland Empire cities in population. Largest is Riverside. Here you sit at 80,589. Hesperia out in the deserts above you. Hemet is now a little smaller than you are. You've passed Hemet. Population gain, you had the 8th fastest gain from 2000 to January 2012 in the Inland Empire. There's Fontana, there was heavy annexations. Murrieta sort of took off, as did Victorville, but you're 8th fastest growing in terms of population. Median household income. Corona, 80,000. There's Ventura County. There's Murrieta. There's Orange County. There's Temecula. There's San Diego County. Your median income is just below San Diego County. It's above Moreno Valley. It's above the Riverside and LA and San Bernardino County. It's above the monster to the east in city of Riverside by over 5,000. And then here are the other cities. Here's Paris, there's Hemet. So the city's median income, half above, half below, not bad. Taxable sales. The city council has to worry a lot about this. This is one of the forms of discretionary income, the property tax. 343 million, 370, it went up. 421, it went up. 441, you've seen, I'm sorry, these are taxable sales, what am I saying? This is your taxable sales, you notice it's growing. Now remember I showed you what was happening to retail employment, it shrank, but this is what we're seeing throughout the area, are increases in retail sales, altogether almost up $100 million. 97,929,000 from 09 to 2012, and it's this wasn't as strong a gain as you had in 11. 11 was really good. This is a forecast based upon the first 2 quarters of this year. Altogether up 28.5%, so it's doing pretty well. Now, how do you compare to other communities in retail sales? There's Riverside, so you're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I think I get 14th. Oh, it says 14th. Duh. I only create the charts, I can't read them. You rank 14th out of the 27 cities in Riverside County. Sales taxes per capita is something economists use for a couple of reasons. Number one, it tells you how much money for discretionary spending is going to the city in order to provide services to the city. How many dollars for each person? Here you are, you're 22nd, way down here. There's the county average. Palm Desert's the big winner. There's your big shopping centers down in Temecula. Now, here is your challenge as a community. What this tells me as I look at it is a lot of the money that people who live here are spending is being spent someplace else, providing those other places with police department, fire department, senior services, and everything else. This is not unusual for a new growing community, but it is your challenge is to fill in the blanks so this starts going up. That is a crucial thing for policy for the city going forward. Now there's assessed valuation. 2010 it was at round figures $6 billion. Went down to 5.7, but back to 5.8, and back down to 5.7. It's down 3.6%. That is quite a bit less than the decline in the county, which is good news, except for Marion Ashley. Assessed valuation, here you are. Again, pretty much right in the center. If we look down the corridor, let's see, what do we find here? There's Temecula, there's Murrieta, there's Hemet just below you, there's Paris. So essentially you've passed Hemet on several different measures for a very new community. I have 5 minutes. Is that fast enough? All right. All right. The slowdown in housing hurts the the office market. You can see it took off and then it crashed. It crashed, frankly, because a lot of people moved out of the office market. Office vacancies were at 7%. 7% was the third lowest of all the suburban markets in the United States. Only Bozeman, Montana, and Bakersfield had tighter markets. So we built a lot of office space right in time for the recession. The office forecast, it's now a permanent part of the economy. It ultimately will be very strong for this reason. The Inland Empire has 4.3 million people. So what? Oregon has 400,000 fewer people than San Bernardino and Riverside counties. If we were a state, we would have 24 states with less people in them than we have right now. We have to pass Kentucky, which is 75,000 larger, which will pass in the next housing cycle, and half the U.S. states will be smaller than our particular region. Long term, it'll be a strength. Going back to the city very briefly, age levels. What's very interesting about the city, and this is no surprise, I think, you don't have a lot of teenagers. 10.9% of the population versus the inland or Riverside average is 16. You have a lot of seniors. 30.5% of the population versus 22.1% for the county as a whole. That then shows up directly in crime rates. So notice where you rank. You have the second lowest overall crime rate in Riverside County. Only Murrieta is stronger. Violent crime, well, you're killing each other a little. Actually, you're not. You had no, in 2010 there were no murders, but Indian Wells, where Bill Gates hangs out, and Temecula were the only two cities, but for every 1,000 persons, there was only 0.8 violent crimes, and you're the second lowest in property crimes. Finally and lastly, looking ahead, what do we see? Like I said, I'm the most depressing person I know. So what's the forecast? 2012 clearly is turning out to be better than 2011, which is good news finally. Foreclosures clearly are our continuing issue. Complete recovery, I suspect 2015, 2016, 2012, jobs will occur, and I made a forecast. My wife told me I was nuts. She's an English major. She figures she knows better. I had forecast 16.2. We're already up over 18 on an average, and it's building. So actually what we're seeing, it's growing more than expected, and I suspect 2013 will be better if Congress acts. I thank you all very much.